looks like we are live. Let me send this link to the patrons, and hopefully they'll start hopping on soon. Got some fun stuff to show off today. And again, just hanging out. I should really schedule these so people have the link when we get started, but it is what it is. If you're watching this recording, it's probably a good idea to skip forward about 5-10 minutes. So, but yeah, it's like some folks are starting to trickle in. Dragon just showed up. Mizco's here. Yeah, so Mizco's asking if the streams are available after they're finished. Yes. Both if you have the link now, they'll turn into a actual video you can rewatch later, and then also a day after the fact I post them publicly, if I remember. Yeah, so actually, Mizco, while I have you, one of the things I want to do later on in the stream is take a look at some of your stock that's having lighting issues. Would you mind posting in the chat the particular pieces of stock I should take a look at first? Hey Larky, hey Stephanie. I'm just going to wait another 2 or 3 minutes for a few more folks to hop on. Hopefully this time, I've already booted up Minecraft just to be safe. We're going to have less issues getting Minecraft set up in the first place. But yeah, I just want to go over, for those who are here now, my rough plan for today is hopping through and taking a look at some of the in-progress work here and there, talk about what the patron priorities are, as far as this release and the next one, and yeah, start talking about some of the what's remaining to get this particular release off the ground, because we're actually getting pretty close. Like the issues that Mizco's running into, this lighting stuff. Like I think once that's sorted out, most of the technical barriers have been taken care of. I haven't been posting a ton of stuff, but I have spent some time with for the Winslow server and Boot server, just doing some checking and making sure everything's running okay. And so far, the server performance, at least on 1.12, is looking pretty darn good. And there's some additional fixes that are coming in that will also help boost that up a little bit. Let's see. There's the EU07 in the newest release. Okay, I just downloaded the newest release. I'll load that in once I set my development environment back to a little bit of a normal state. Let's see. Yeah, another minute or so and we'll hop in and get started. Excuse me, I'm still waking up this morning. If you hear some crashing and banging or meowing in the background, the boys are up and playing with each other and chasing little toy mice around. I've got to post more pictures of these guys. They're getting big. Let's see. The toggle option with the widgets, did you give the ability to slow it down? The way it's implemented right now, that's not really that easy to do. Yeah, having the widgets move slower is tricky. Yeah. If I'm understanding what you're saying correctly. Okay, well, let's jump into this then. So it's been a little bit since the last one, not quite as long as previous gaps, but Yeah, I've real quick. I did restructure the Patreon page a little bit, um, just to simplify some of the rewards, and clarify them a bit so that I can actually follow through on them a little bit better. Um, yeah, so if you're not happy with any of those changes, feel free to change your pledges, and just giving you guys a heads up that I did make some changes. If you're at some of the lower tiers, the big thing that was changed was the first and second tier got just combined together into the single $1 tier just for simplicity. Um, but yeah, so let's start off with something fun. I, as many of you guys know, am very, very, very bad at math. Which is really funny considering I wrote a train simulator. Or at least a facsimile of one. Uh, and also worth mentioning, I don't actually play train simulators. I was talking to Legend the other day, and he always forgets that I don't have any serious background in making train simulators. Most of the really good ideas came from other folks who were like, "Oh yeah, I've done this in another train simulator. This would be cool to do here." Um, but yeah, I can hack it when it comes to math, but it's definitely not my strong suit. So I spent a fair amount of time over the past couple weeks taking a look. Let me pull up his page real quick. Oh shoot, I've got it bookmarked over here. Just to give credit, I'm not using this exact code, but I'm using stuff that's heavily inspired by it. If you're curious about rigid body dynamics and some of the math that goes into what I'm about to show, this is what to take a look at. This is a little bit old. It's 96, so I was in elementary school when this was written. But physics doesn't change that much, as some of the techniques do a little bit for simulation. So I'll probably continue refining it, but this person wrote a series of really good articles going over a lot of the basics for people who are, if you have a basic understanding of calculus and can sit there and puzzle through equations, you can make heads and tails of most of it. Honestly, the fourth part I'm still not super up on, but he provides sample code. I think it's I'm pretty sure. Yeah, Chris Heckler. And this sample code, I managed to get it to work through Wine and was playing around with the source that was published. And between the source code that was published there and the articles that were written, I was able to puzzle together something that mostly works. If you're in the Patreon Discord server, you'll probably see you'll probably have seen some of the videos that are similar to what I'm about to show. Excuse me. But yeah, overall, I'm pretty happy with this. I didn't show this in the last live stream, right? Just want to make sure. Pretty sure I've just been posting videos of this. I've had a lot of stuff going on outside of, yeah, so that was April 26th. Yeah, no, I haven't streamed this yet. Yeah, that was, yeah. Okay. Sorry, just making sure that I'm not repeating myself. Let's hopping back over here. Let's see. Looks like a few more people have joined. Someone whose name starts with Samsung. And Philip Marks. Good morning. So, anyways, long story short, this was an excellent article. If you're curious about what's going on behind the scenes, it's similar to this, but I chopped it up in some interesting ways and abuse it in others. But yeah, physics is interesting. Something else worth noting is Minecraft's coordinate system is strange. They inverted several axes, and it's very much not standard. So all the math that comes from other sources, you need to figure out how to translate, which is why this code is actually the most documented in immersive railroading history. If I hop over to the rigid body box stuff. Some of it's not, but stuff like this, I actually have documented what's the actual mathematics and what are the units going between all the stuff. Anyways, let's get to the fun bit. So we'll go into the real-ish world where I can do some tests in a Minecraft world. I'm just going to go to the super flat world. This all started because I started playing with like physics and movement, and I'm digging into how Minecraft entity movement works and trying to find a way to kind of combine Immersive Railroading's method with Minecraft's default method. Yeah, let me do that again, because that's... Oh, right. That's a little bit of a spoiler. There we go. So, I can plop down an engine, and it bounces. It also flips around 180 degrees. That, I'm not entirely sure why. I was also tweaking the physics so it's a little bit bouncier than it used to be. And this is not locking on rails right now. This is just doing ground collisions. And there's absolutely no friction whatsoever. But the fun part is, if I come over here, if I could break blocks quicker, but... Oh, come on, you're gonna... Whoops. Oh no, it broke. It's all the pieces are flying. Look at that. The collisions are not perfect. The bounding boxes are not perfect, but the core pieces of what's actually supposed to be going on is going on, which is cool. So if I plop this down, it's going to bounce around a little bit. Actually, I'm going to go backwards. Yep, there we go. And again, all the particles that are being shown, that's just some debug for my own sanity. Because coordinate systems are weird. Woohoo! James, ever think you'd see that in Minecraft? Whoop. To break this now. And it breaks it in place, and then all the pieces just kind of scatter. It's fun. Yeah, wrong, I do need to add a steering wheel. Excuse me. The other fun part is, let me start placing some of this down. Let's plop that, and that, and that, and that. I'm going to put a bunch of these down. Also, one thing I haven't really mentioned just yet, oops, those were too close to each other. Let me do that again. What I haven't quite mentioned yet is the performance on this is remarkably good, at least the current implementation. There's definitely a lot of missing pieces in this physics simulation, as you can probably tell, but overall it's, like, given I'm already doing a lot of the tricky stuff, the performance really is not bad at all. So we shouldn't see a huge additional load on the server. So if we go to Forge TPS, 7 milliseconds, and I've just placed a bunch of stuff down. So let's come back here, plop you down, bloop, and let's have some fun. Stop the rain. And yes, I know this is very bouncy, but BAM! TPS is really, like, even in a major collision, not a lot of badness is going on. And again, I haven't done any serious optimization either, but... And I can come in here and kill one of these, and bloop. Parts going all over the place. Alright, let me reset everything. Yeah. So, this is, honestly, for stability sake and my own sanity, this will likely go into, or at least the full version of this will likely go into not 110, which is the next release, not 111, which is the release after that, but the release after that. So, I'm showing this now, like, because I've had a ton of fun, but this is going to take a ton of time and effort, and honestly, I'm probably going to need help from other developers to get this to the state where it's actually fully usable. And doesn't completely break survival. Oh my god, yeah, public servers, this will be insane. Yeah. So, yeah, if you crash different locomotives together, like, you're gonna have to sort through the mess. Like, that's... Excuse me. It's pretty cool. Yeah, it is currently interchangeable. I also might throw in partware as part of this. I'm not sure. Again, this is like not necessarily what the most current plans are. This is like what's coming down the pipe a little bit. But let's just do another fun example and just kind of go flying off this here. Uh-oh. Right. Oops. There we go. I need to get rid of this because it's currently interacting with that, which is why it was moving. There we go. And then once it falls off of this, I'm gonna... It is very satisfying. You probably could. That would be fantastic. Wrong. Someone was asking the other day about like explosions. I think I could probably hook into... Why do you keep doing that? Forge's explosion handler? Whatever. Doesn't actually matter. And figure out the strength of the explosion and add some applied forces due to that. Yeah. It doesn't collide horizontally with the ground yet. That's something that still needs to be done. So like you'll see it's just going to phase through this right now. Yeah. But again, like the core pieces exist. Yes, so this doesn't impact any of the existing models. So this is all... The only thing that's been changed is the entity movement code and what happens when the stock gets destroyed. So, woo. Yeah. But again, like for someone who is not good at any of this stuff, getting this working as well as it is right now is pretty darn good. So, fun stuff will come. It's also going to bounce off the water, because physics. Anyways, I could just put a pit of them down there and just break everything, but... Anyways, yeah. Yeah, this will be pretty chaotic when it goes live, but I'm pretty happy with it. It's not going to be an absolutely perfect simulation, but it's going to be close enough that it's going to be usable. And again, considering most entities in Minecraft don't have what I'm calling role, in this case, it's a pretty decent technical achievement. The only thing that I can think of that comes close to this is the portal gun mod had, I think the gravity gun mod where you could like pick up a block and like toss it. I think they had some rigid body dynamics in there. Anyways, so this is what's in progress. This is definitely going to be a ways out. Like if this drops within the next year, I will be surprised. It's again, the technical foundation is solid enough that I can say that yes, I think I can get this actually into the released game at some point, but getting it there and getting it so it doesn't completely break everyone's play experience, that's going to be a lot. Yeah. So, yeah, that's probably the most fun thing I've done with... One of the most fun things I've done with IR in quite some time. But, yeah, should be good. Yeah, so let's see, what's next? Where do I want to go from here? I did want to talk about a couple fixes that are coming in the next test build real quick. If I come over to this definition manager, some people, some folks have complained that in the latest test build, the loading time has gone up by a... Let me do this. The stock loading time has gone up by a non-trivial amount if you've got a really large pack. Andrew Boot, excuse me. but I found a way around that. So there's a problem where it hardly ever happens on Linux, but on some other operating systems, Windows especially, Java's garbage collector doesn't work as well from what I can tell, which is really weird. If you're really doing a bunch of multi-threading, which IR's loading process is. But long story short, this piece of code right here is what defines how many excuse me, how many threads Immersive Railroading will try to use when it's starting up, when it's generating the cache, or even just loading Minecraft in general. So part of the problem is when it was doing a bunch of really heavy models at the same time, on Windows the garbage collector would effectively deadlock, you'd get run out of memory, and stuff would just crash. Let's see. Misko, I will come back to that in a little bit. Sorry. Let me drink some water. Sorry, where was I? Right, this piece of code is what determines that level of parallelism, where if you have a fast hard drive, you can support loading like 4 or even 8 models at the same time, if you can spare the memory. So the way this works is I take this megabytes reserved per stock loading thread. This defaults to 120. So this effectively says when you're loading Minecraft, per every 124 megabytes of free memory, effectively for every gigabyte you give Immersive Railroading, it has the ability to spawn an additional stock loading thread. And even though people had enough memory, it was crashing in weird scenarios. So what I did to fix that is I added this right here, and before I didn't have this code surrounding it. And again, I know this is a little bit technical, but I do kind of want to go into this a little bit. The garbage collector in Java is like, so when you're done with like an object in Java, you just kind of pretend it doesn't exist, and eventually it goes away. It's like when you were scared of something as a little kid. Running out of memory can't hurt you if you can't see it. But anyways, so this right here effectively says, hey Java, can you just stop everything you're doing and see if there's any trash you can take out? And usually it can take out a fair amount, but again, performance is a function of how frequently you take out the trash. So if you were in your house and you went down to the dump every time you had a single moldy orange you needed to throw out, I don't know, a single piece of trash you needed to throw out, you'd be spending a lot of time going back and forth, and you really wouldn't be that productive. If you filled your entire house with garbage, and then once it's full, went through and tried to clean the whole house, you would be overwhelmed and honestly probably just give up, which is honestly what an out-of-memory error in Java usually is. And this is trying to suggest a healthy middle ground. What this is doing is once the house starts getting full, once all the trash bins are full in this analogy, then it says, okay, time to take out the trash. So it's trying to find a compromise between being too proactive, which means your house stays spick and span, and letting it fill up with garbage. So before, I was doing the spick and span, which was not fantastic performance-wise, but this right here has dramatically improved the performance, especially once you've already loaded all your models. Once you've already generated your cache. So that when the next test build drops, that will be included, which will be a nice addition. Excuse me. So that's going to go in. There's also one other piece of technical debt that I want to talk about, other than fixing the lighting issues, is Universal Mod Core. It kind of abstracts away that you deal with like interacting with the world and entities, and some folks hopped on the UMC Discord and submitted a patch which worked, but there's some issues with thread safety, and I didn't fully trust the way they did this. There's some technical details behind it, so I re-implemented that a different way. I was still waiting on them to have some time to run a performance test on their server. But effectively, this should also help improve server performance when a ton of chunks are loaded. Not even by our, but just by other mods. So if you have a ton of entities on the server, there was a little bit of code in here that would end up slowing down Minecraft a little bit, just due to some bookkeeping that Universal Mod Core does behind the scenes. Anyways, you guys don't need to care about that much, but it just means that if there's more chunks loaded, Immersive Railroading and Universal Mod Core is going to put less of a burden on that, just doing some bookkeeping behind the scenes. So I'll get this merged in before the next test build drops. I'm hopefully doing that later today. There's some other stuff I have to take care of in the real world, but yeah. So that's going on. Let's see, before I switch up my development environment, I just want to quickly talk about contributor voice. Before I start diving into the code and doing some tests with Mizco and chatting with you folks on and off about like different stuff about the test build. Also just realized the screenshot still has that bug, which has been fixed. Anyways, yeah, so if you've been to contributor voice recently, I've made some changes. I've been changing the style, changing some stuff here and there, getting some other folks to test it out. It's not a huge amount of changes, but I'm pretty happy with it. Again, I do want to launch this as a product at some point, but yeah, I do appreciate that everyone has filled out, or not. Most people have filled out the polls that are available, because this does help me figure out what to focus on next. So stability, yeah, that's a big one. Adding new features, that's a big one. Expanding support for newer Minecraft versions, this doesn't have a ton of votes yet. So as it stands right now, I'm going to focus on doing the UMC change. So 1.10, I want to just finish and get out the door with as few changes as possible. Just get it stable, get it out there, do the UMC port to other versions without doing a huge amount of bug fixes compared to what's there now. And then once 1.10 drops, I'm going to spend a ton of time in Universal Mod Core. Not necessarily the Universal Mod Core 2.0 that I was talking about some other time. I think it's going to be more of like a gradual change. But anyways, with Universal Mod Core, I want to go back and audit everything, do a bunch of testing, get it stable from 1.7.10 all the way through 1.16.5. And depending on how the release schedule goes at that point, and depending on what the vote priority is, I'll start taking a look at 1.17 and 1.18. I have actually ported the code to 1.17 and 1.18 in the worst possible way just to test the render system. Nothing worked other than getting a couple pixels on the screen. That's all I wanted to test. So I know roughly how much effort it's going to take, and it's definitely non-trivial, but I'm not going to have to do any major Universal Mod Core changes to get us there, which is nice. All of those with the render changes are going to be packaged in this current round of changes. Anyways, in large projects, these we will get to. So that's kind of the development priorities. So new features-wise, so structures and dynamic cargo visualization, those are currently the top of the list. For 1.11, I'll probably take the top 2 or 3 of these and pull them into that release. So 1.11, I'd like to focus on stability, but I do want to pull in some fun stuff as well. Went too far back. And speaking of stability, my mouse is being weird. Sorry for the flickeriness. The server performance is the big one. This, I wonder who that is. That's probably Andrew Boot. Yep. This is the big one. This one has actually seen some pretty significant boosts, but this will also come into taking a deeper look at Universal Mod Core. I know, James, you're a very loud kitty. You're walking around and yelling because you want to go play outside, which we'll do later. Sorry for all the background noise. Yeah. And some track following issues. These are going to be a little bit harder to diagnose. So this, I will probably do some crowdsourcing, where I might even have like a bug marathon, is kind of what I'm thinking about this, like where I spend a whole weekend and I have people take little, like, a minute-long videos of placing track that doesn't work. So it's easy for me to replicate in my development environment and just go through all of that at once. Or at least bring all of that into one place and see if that can be fixed. Yeah, and stock coupling, that will need to be fixed at some point too. James, I know you're a sweet kitty. You're just sitting in the middle of the kitchen, yelling because you want me to open the door so you can go outside. But we can't do that, because you're not on leash right now. Anyways, and large projects. So I might try and get one of the large projects in the next version, so the stock track permission system, again, a lot of this depends on how things are going for 1.11 and how much I want to try and cram into there. But yeah, it's coming along. So that's kind of my rough plan for the next couple months and like what direction I'm aiming. Again, I do, especially because I'm developing the code for it right now, I do check contributor voice a fair amount. So, and especially before I get to working on a new version, like a lot of this again is still pretty fluid. And if there's new issues you want put on the board, feel free to DM me, and I'm more than happy to discuss that. So I think that's all the bookkeeping and showing off some of the new stuff that likely won't be in for the next year, but we should see some progress moving on it in the background. So I am going to reset my development environment so I can start doing some fiddling around with the current, or what's going to be the current test build. I also am going to copy this code before I forget because I need to pull that in. Hey James. And yeah, start getting the new test build ready and chatting with you guys on stuff you'd like me to test, like to see, me fiddle with. So I'm James. Come here. Hey, buddy. You're being noisy. You're a very noisy cat. At some point, I'll need to get a camera set up so you guys can see these little munchkins. Hey, buddy. I know you need some attention. Yes. Yes, you do. Sorry. Back to the regularly scheduled program. Okay. I'm just gonna stash this. -forge. Alright, that's that. Alright. Java status, if I can spell. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm just gonna stash these. No, I'm gonna commit these because again, this is all work in progress. I know you love to talk, James. Yeah. Yeah. Anyways, a lot of these aren't going to have good commits because I'm just doing a bunch of stuff and seeing what sticks. Alright. Push that up. Alright, so let's... Yeah, so you can see this is the difference I was talking. So it was before just every time running systemgc, now it waits until it's actually a little bit under memory pressure to force clearing out the Java collector. Not the Java collector, the garbage collector. Java collector sounds like someone's job in the office after everyone leaves and leaves all their cups half full of coffee around. Anyways, yeah. Let's see. Oh, and for those of you wondering, like, what graphics card I use to develop immersive railroading, at least on this machine, RAID E on top. So I only have 2 gigs of VRAM. So that actually, I think, works in my favor because most people at this point should at least have 2 gigs of VRAM. If they don't, like, it's hard to justify gaming on those systems. Again, it's possible, but like if you're looking for any serious performance, you need at least 2 gigs of VRAM. Most cards these days come with 4 or 8. So, and most cards I've had, at least in the past 10 years, I think, have had at least 2 gigs of VRAM, so I feel comfortable saying that's a pretty reasonable thing support-wise. Yeah. Anywho, yeah, if you're on Linux and you have a ATI card, Radeon Top is a fantastic program that I use a bunch. Anywho, back to the regularly scheduled program. Let me commit this change real quick. Ooh. Yeah, I do need... people are talking specs in the chat, just for fun. So this is... I've actually got a decent R7 in there. Not a super highly clocked one, but it's more than suits my needs. And... So, oh yeah. Yeah, I'm just a little bit close on space. So like, I've only got 24 gigs on my main drive, and I've got a RAID array in here that is getting pretty close to full. I just need to buy like a big M2 SSD, like a 4 terabyte one, transfer everything over and just be done with it and set up some backups. But, it is what it is. Anyways, we're here for immersive railroading, not... Oops, okay. Garbage collector overhead. In stock loading. Ta-da! I'm not going to push that yet. Okay. So, we actually have our development environment set up again. So what did I say we were going to work on? Oh yeah, the first thing we're doing, I don't know if you're still around Mizco, but I'm going to load up your pack. Actually, I'm going to kill this real quick. I think this is the latest one. Yeah, that should be the latest one. I actually have quite a few packs set up here. Oh, LOD changes. Don't let me forget to do the LOD changes. Okay, no, that works fine. So I should be booted up and we can start taking a look. Yeah, but yeah, chat, don't let me forget to dig into the LOD stuff before the end of the stream. Oh, Henry, you're gonna yell now that James is quiet? Yeah. Hey, buddy. Oh, and for those of you who don't know the acronym, LOD stands for level of detail. So one thing I'm doing in Immersive Railroading now, it's actually technically in Universal Mod Core, it's a shared responsibility, is that you can set up rescaled versions of the texture sheet so that, like on my graphics card where I'm constantly running out of VRAM, when I'm loading like a large freight yard, anything that's more than like 16 blocks away, it can be a simpler texture. Which takes up less space in the GPU. Because it's actually a n squared. So like, if you have like a 1K texture, going to a 2K texture is actually 4 times as big. And a 4K texture is 16 times as big. Which is kind of fun. So you could... So the further out the further away you're looking, the less detail you need in your textures. There's some weird stuff that happens with voxel models, which does need to be addressed. But I'm going to change some of the LOD, like some of the LOD defaults, and get rid of some of the smaller levels that really don't make sense. Because once you get down to like, honestly, 512 by 512, it doesn't matter too much. Hello, Henry. He does this thing where when my arm is on my chair, he actually reaches up and like taps my arm saying, "Hey, can I get some attention?" It's very sweet. But they're, as you can hear in the background, they're very loud cats. Yeah. So if I take a look at this, you can see in the log, there's actually, well, there's a bunch of stuff that's partially broken in different packs, like that TGA file is not found. You shouldn't be using TGA files in the first place, whoever's pack that is. But yeah, that's good seeing you, Surfliner. But you can see these different numbers after immersive railroading. What that's telling me is how many different threads are actually, it's messages coming from different threads. So there's like, what, I think probably 7 threads. There's also a tool called, just while we're waiting, I'll show off some of the fun stuff. And if you're really feeling adventurous, you can use this tool to try and figure out what's going on with Minecraft. I'll put this over here and this over here. And click on this. And sampler. So you can see there's like memory information, but here you can see I've got 5 different threads running. Yeah, let's see. Yeah, so I actually only had 5 gigs of RAM free, so Ire's being a little bit smarter now. But yeah, so it looks at your system, says how many CPUs do you have, how much memory have you allocated, in a couple different ways. I know. I already gave you breakfast. This is going to be the cat stream. But yeah, it looks at a bunch of stuff, figures out how parallel it can try to be, and then scales up to that level. But inside of here, if you're ever curious what Minecraft is doing under the hood when it's running really slow, you can use programs like this. This, I think, is distributed by Oracle. And it shows you effectively what calls what, which calls what, which calls what, and then how much time different stuff is taking. So like right now, if I go to the hotspots, a lot of the time is being spent in image manipulation, and a little bit of time is being spent in generating height maps. But you can dig into like all this fun stuff. Again, a lot of this level especially doesn't make a ton of sense, but once you actually get into like running a Minecraft server, this simplifies itself quite a bit. Hi, Henry. Here, you're gonna come sit up on my lap for a minute. Hi. Yes. While Minecraft is still loading. So, if you're wondering what I do to like test the performance and figure out how stuff is working, this is what I usually do. Is I crack open Minecraft, open up Visual VM. This also, I think Fastcraft can take NPS snapshots, so if you're running on a server, you can actually run a similar program on the Minecraft server for a while, dump the information, and then send that to the developer, and they can look at something like this. There's also Spark Profiler. I'm not going to show the link because I don't want... I don't know how Andrew Boot feels about that. But there's like a Spark tool that can show you a very similar view using similar data. Sorry. He was napping for 2 hours before this. Henry, what's up? I know you want to go play outside. I've been taking them outside and putting them on a lead. Anyways, Minecraft is loaded. I'm gonna close this. Hop over here. Yes, that was... Oh, I actually didn't want to load that world, but that's okay. Hopefully this doesn't crash. Yeah. I actually want to go into one of my previous worlds. This one. Okay, finally getting to Mizco's models. No, I did not name them after TTE. And there wasn't any plans behind that. Also, some people have asked if it's like after like Henry James Thoreau. Like, Walden is a tragedy of a book. It is... I cannot suffer through that. Okay. So, Mizco, earlier on you had said EU07. Just 07. Oh, because there's a few different ones. There we go. Bloop. Nice. What even is this track? I don't know. That's interesting. Sorry, I'm just... Oh yeah, that's another thing I need to do, is I need to reduce the delay on... Oh my god, yeah, I need to reduce that delay. Let me do that before I forget, because a lot of people have been complaining about this, now that I actually fixed it so it works correctly. Diesel... it's the key repeat stuff. There we go. Turn on delay, turn off delay. Throttle cooldown. Set that to 2 ticks. That's a little better. Yeah. I think I'm coupling into some stuff that doesn't actually exist. That's not great. Actually, no, that was too quick. Alright, it also only updates... This updates a lot less frequently now. Yeah, I might change that again. Right. I can... Let's hack it real quick in entity locomotive. Gonna do... Yeah, we'll just hack it for the moment. Not key press. Click. Do I have tech here? There we go. Set that to half the default and see if that's better. That feels a bit better. I do like the sounds. Kudos on that. Where is the lights? Engine start. Let's see, there was a... I've got a screenshot of this somewhere. Okay, so it's this. That's a really tiny switch. Okay. So what wasn't working? Oh, it's the the interior lights. Yeah, so the cab itself is not lighting up. Alright, so what is that actually doing? I'm gonna... because there's other stuff in this world that's kind of broken. I'm gonna... There we go. Just clear out this world real quick. Alright, so that's turned on. Is that... that might be a trademark issue. So I need to move this a little bit because positioning's weird. Yeah, I can. So let me pull up the model itself and take a look at this. Oh, sorry. I see. Yeah, between the big buttons. And the raining through the train is limitations of Minecraft. There's not a good way of fixing that. And only lit the widgets. Okay, so yeah, let me take a look at this. I just want to have the model at hand, open in Blender. Do this over here. Yeah, no, I did make some changes, so I'm definitely not doubting you. It's just I broke something in the code, and knowing the naming, or having the naming at hand should be helpful. Oh, come on. There we go. Railroading, rolling stock, locomotives, EU7. Oop, that's the JSON file, it's not what I want. Models, rolling stock, EU7, OBJ. Open, save as dust. Okay. Open up Blender. Sorry, this is all off screen just because I don't want to show my file explorer. Hi, Henry. You gonna hop on my lap? What are you doing? Why not? J7. I'm not grabbing any of the textures because that doesn't matter as much. What are you doing, buddy? If you start stepping on my keyboard, bad things are gonna happen. There we go. Okay. LCG cab 1. Okay, interior. Oh, interior 2. Okay, I think I know why. Okay, let me double check, 'cause I think that might do it right there. Model. There's a lot of code here. It takes me a minute to find stuff. Model part. Component renderer. There we go. Oop, there we go. So this is where it actually figures out the lighting stuff, and this is where I rewrote it. Come on. Group, interior group, has group flag. Okay. So I can revert this to the way it worked before. So technically, so the way I imagined it, interior, like if this were like, I don't know, I might not. So this should be like interior underscore 2. Like it should be its own block within the, within the underscores. Yeah. Hey, Sebastian. So we're looking at Mizco's model and figuring out what change I made caused the interior not to light up. I do want to... I'm going to fix it in the stream, but I'm not sure I'm going to keep that for the released version, because this is... In my mind, this isn't correct functionality. So let me break the code so it works the way it did before. So this is... Actually, I don't need to do this. I can just do... group contains filter underscore, or just disable all this code for now. Excuse me. This isn't exactly what I had before, but it's close enough that this should work. So, yeah. This is one of the reasons that I've been waiting so long to actually release this version of Immersive Railroading, is because I want it to be clear-cut enough that when the release comes out, I don't want to have people go back through and change their models release to release. If the test build breaks something, that's the test build, but if someone releases something on 1.10 and then I change the model system slightly in 1.11, everything new should be opt-in instead of breaking stuff that's currently there. Also, chat, have I shown you the new casting searchable interface? Or any of the new searchable interfaces? I know they've been in test builds. I don't remember if I've actually shown that on stream. There we go. Nice and speedy boot up. Okay, yeah. I'll show that after this. And then we can do the LOD stuff. Before I forget. Yeah. So, come up here. Hey, it's working now. As expected. That's fun. What is that button? Yeah, that's fun. Sorry. I always just have fun fiddling around with this stuff. Yeah. Oh, cool. The two cabs are independent. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Internal lights not working on freight cars. Let me check. I think that might have been intentional, but it might not be. So, Mizko, if you're still around, you saw what I was talking about with there's just a simple little renaming thing where you need an underscore. Like interior 2 LCG would actually be interior underscore 2 LCG. Just because this can't be butting up against anything else. Yeah. Maybe someday, Sebastian. That's getting into some weird Minecraft lighting stuff, which I don't want to touch right now. Freight cars. Let me revert this to the way it was before. I know I could just do a git revert, but that's not too much. Okay. That's what it was before. Taking a look at this. So the stock models by default don't have power, I don't think. Just render with interior lighting. Right, and then, oh yeah, and then in here, oop, come on. Bah, sorry. This is the LED stuff that we'll get back to. Has interior. So I just have to remember where this code actually lives with interior light. There we go. Yeah, okay, yeah, this is where it is. Stock to internal lights enabled. So by default, rolling stock doesn't. Coupleable rolling stock says. Oh, so. Okay, so Mizko, there's something. Yeah. So, this right here, there's a flag. So this if it's a passenger car, defaults to true. Otherwise, it's false. So passenger cars can take power, freight cars don't. Again, feel free to comment if that's realistic or not. I'm happy changing that, but for the moment, this is what you need. So this is the properties. So this would be so if you set that, that should work for freight cars. And yeah, sorry, I know the stream's a little bit laggy as well. It's like a couple seconds behind at least. But yeah, so that does explain that, and that makes me a little bit more relieved. Okay. Oh, he's going to show new thing, and then, which was over here. I may have had a little accident there. And, yeah, then do the LOD stuff. So, there's a lot of stuff here. I actually have quite a few packs loaded. Not quite Underboot level, but fair amount. So this up here is new. So if I want to search for big, look at that. I also, let's say I'm looking for narrow gauge. Well, that's Highland narrow gauge pack. Let's say I just want to see Larky stuff. Ta-da! It's pretty sweet, because it's searching both the name and the metadata. So like this 1440, you can see this entire set here. Yeah. So that makes large packs much more usable. I do need to redo the track user interface, because this, just switch that to 10 real quick. This track style selector sucks. Like, honestly, this whole user interface needs to be fixed. Vote on Patreon if you want me to do that, or on Contributor Voice. But especially some larger packs, there's a ton of stuff here. So now we just want wood, or plank, or concrete, or red. So any of those item pickers now have that additional search functionality, which is pretty cool. So hopefully that'll make gameplay quite a bit better. Also, if you weren't familiar, you can select a model, and if you choose the first option instead of one of the individual pieces, it casts all the individual pieces of stock. So why are you making noise over there? I did kind of break this wolf a little bit. Go. Creative capacitor. Development environment's a little bit weird. Do this, and toss some steel in. Blocks of steel. I may also bump up the capacity of this, because right now it's a little tricky for some of the really large pieces of stock. It doesn't do everything. Also, let me put a hopper. Hopper. Just oops. I could totally play Minecraft. So, anyway, so I've got the BRO1 selected. It's going to take this much material out of... Or no, sorry, it's going to take this much material out of this, but I can do a single casting. So you guys can actually see what I'm doing. There we go. This is going to take a minute. It's a little bit slow. I've so let me go through the comments in order. So Posen, I don't have that well. Sorry, this is really loud. I don't have that well documented. The best place to go, honestly, is looking at the rolling stock definition code. It's in a few files, and it's not super well set up, but this is where all of the definitions exist, or where all the definitions are parsed. At some point, I do need to write up documentation on this, but we'll get to that eventually. And the next question was, yeah, paintbrush. Yeah, again, like all the user interfaces need to be redone. It just hasn't been super high on the priority list at the moment. Removing the automatic interior detection, I kind of want to leave that for now, Sebastian. Like, there's a lot of stuff. Even there's still some things in the the base mod that like look reasonable. Any arc stuff? So it's effectively adding compatibility for old models. So if any new models should be defining an interior, but if they don't, it just has to make its best guess. So yeah. Oh, well, I clicked on it, so I got all of it, but it was in the process of putting all the parts in here. And again, these are not finished parts. You'll actually need to run them through whatever machine. Like this one has a warning, requires processing in the steam hammer before use. But this is most of what you need for that piece of stock. But this just removes a lot of the clicking and clicking and clicking and clicking. What about the big boy? How much? Yeah, I mean, the big boy still, you can cast the entire thing. Like, maybe some stuff on like the ludicrous gauge. Or like if I switch this over to Brunel gauge. Oh. Yeah. That's a lot. Because it's volume based. That seems disproportionately large. I should look into that. Yeah, that looks wrong. Anyways, might fiddle with that at some point. I think that was comments, all this stuff. That's that potential bug figured out. Hi, Henry. You're gonna come sit on the keyboard again? Hey, bud. Right. I think it's time for level of detail stuff. So let me grab one of the voxel models. Doesn't matter too much. Plop you down over here. And I'm going to config, graphics, trends on the brain, texture cache seconds, sway multiplier. So I've got so the default is 16 right now. It's just fiddling around with that. So this model, when I'm right up close to it, uses, Posen's correct. If there's any interior detected whatsoever, it doesn't do any automatic lighting, and uses that. So as I move away, it switches. Hey, there we go. So that right there is 16 blocks away, which isn't great. So, it's a problem. Part of it's because voxel models' textures tend to be they can be a little bit more, or maybe that's 32 blocks away. I think that's 32. Let me do F3B. Or no. F3G. There we go. That's what I want to see. So this is this. So the center of it is about here. So let's call that a couple blocks. So if I come here, so this is using a slightly smaller texture. This is the higher texture, slightly smaller texture once we get to here. And then that's, I mean, I'm going to actually have the code tell me what LOD level it's using. And just spam that out in the chat, or in the text. There we go. Just cleaning this up. Right, where did I put this? Model. Stock model. Yeah, so like the small LOD is honestly pretty useless. change. Hey. Oh. I'm an idiot. Else. Else if. Oh no. that, that explains why it's been going from, oh, this looks reasonable to, oh no, that's completely unusable. There we go. Yep. Okay, that's better. Let me get rid of that debug. Well, we just found a bug. That explains a lot. Honestly, I should invert these, do that a little bit differently. Anyways. So we can go further and further, and only once we get super, super, super far away, honestly close to render distance, that switches over to the really tiny texture. Actually, I'm going to put the... distance is greater than that. Oh, no, hang on, sorry. No, that code was right the first time, I think? Maybe? Let me reorganize this. It should really be in a different direction. Small. Otherwise, this. Otherwise, do this. Okay, so that's small. Why is it going between small and large? Oh. That would do it. Somebody's really bad at writing this code. Okay. That's better. Like, from this distance, having the texture be a little bit screwy is not as bad. And then as you get closer, you can see it switches to... This is full-size texture. Smaller. Smaller. Smallest. James, can you hop off? Move your keister. Because I can't see my monitor. Alright. That is functioning much better to like what it's supposed to. Again, it's still not perfect for some models, but that definitely helps. So what I'm going to do now is, now that I've... Actually, let me commit other code first. What did I change here? Yes, we're going to do that. Okay. Alright, so all the changes I have is this right now, is fixing that. And you just knocked over my vacuum cleaner. Thanks, James. Cats. Cats, cats, cats. Anyways, that works a heck of a lot better. But what I do want to do is allow the modelers to specify a min LOD size, and honestly, I'm going to set this to 256 instead. And if this works, I might just see how that goes. I don't know. This will regenerate parts of the cache, but not all of it, I think. Yeah, 256, 512, and 1024. I might even get rid of the small one. Yeah. I think I'm just going to do 512, because, let's see, let's do some math for how much VRAM is used. So Python 3. So so there's 8 bytes per pixel. 8 bits per, because that's, hang on, I gotta look this up. How do I do this? Entity render FJ render texture sheet. Oh right, actually I can go into image utils. Here we go. So it's an int represents a single pixel, and int is uh, 8 bytes, I think. Yeah, 16. Hang on. Google time. So it's okay, so yeah, so an int is 32 bits, which 8 bits per byte is 4. Yeah, okay. Sorry, that took me a sec. So yeah, so this is, we're gonna do some math. This isn't, did I close my stream? Give me a sec, guys. I may have done something stupid. Oops. Oh, no, here it is. Sorry, I was just looking at the wrong window. There we go. Yeah, anyways. So 512 times 5 pixels times 512 pixels times 8 bytes. 1024 kilobytes, megabytes. So a 512 by 512 raw image on the graphics card takes 2 megabytes, which is pretty tiny. So if we go up to 1024, it's 4. If we go to 256, or to 2048, is that, I feel like I'm doing something wrong. Oh, no, because I'm not. Again, that's times 124, 250, 2048 times 48. Yeah, 32. So that's 32 megabytes. So let's say the average piece of immersive railroading stock is 2040 by 2048, which is honestly probably a little bit under. That's 32 megabytes at the very least for rendering that in-game. And if we go up to 4096 by 4096, which there are a lot of those, we go up to 120 megabytes per model in-game. So this is why this matters, because it scales as a power of 2. Anyways, but 512 is tiny, and honestly so is 1024 by 1024. So I think I'm going to simplify the LOD code a bit. And I think I'm just going to do a single LOD level, because honestly there's not a huge amount of savings. So if you have 100 pieces of rolling stock of different types, and you're at the smallest LOD level, that would be times, let's see, oh yeah, 1024 by 1024, that's 8 megabytes per piece of stock. That's a gig of VRAM. That's actually a fair amount. But if we bring that down to 512 by 512, that's 200. Yeah, I think I'll do 512 and 1024, because I think that's going to be okay. We'll give that a try. Back to my code. Get rid of that. And oops. Do this. Okay. That should work. Let's give that a try. And hopefully this fixes issues for a lot of models who are having some LOD problems. Level of detail problems with the textures. But the big thing was this code was not functioning correctly at all, which is super fun. Let's see, what else this is a good time to, I guess I've been streaming for about an hour now. What do you guys want to talk about? What else is, I think that was most of what I wanted to, at least as a developer, go over this week. Do you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, bugs you want me to take a look at while we're here? Yeah. Yeah, I do want to just say that 1.11, like, especially because structures are sort of slated for it, I do want to work on the immersive railroading survival use case, because right now I use it just fine in survival, but I tend to cheese it in interesting ways, and I also haven't played survival since pretty much since the last time I was doing uh, uh, the videos or streams. I honestly don't even remember, but I had a world like 3 years back, 4 years back, where I was doing some fun stuff. Anyways, yeah, I do want to set up a server. I'm considering doing a patron only server, where if it would have to be like, I don't think I would do the lowest tier for a patron only server, but I'd probably set up like a, I don't know. I'll do some math and figure out what I'd actually want to charge for it, but it probably wouldn't be more than $5. So yeah. Anyways, I'm doing some brainstorming. There would likely be a 1.16.5 server because I do want to get some gameplay on that to make sure that is stable and usable. Some additional swinging. Oh, in the X, Y, and Z dimensions. Yeah, I might play a little bit with that during this stream. We'll see. Yeah, it's currently regenerating the cache because I changed that, which changes a bunch of other stuff. Yeah. But again, regenerating the cache is not that bad. It's a heck of a lot better than it used to be. I've optimized this process pretty well. And actually, this is a good thing, what I was talking about earlier, like, the memory goes up, 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 and then once it starts hanging out around here, you see it jumps all the way back here, because I tell Java, stop what you're doing, we got to figure out this whole memory situation before it gets out of control. Holy cow, whose texture was that? Who am I going to shame publicly on the stream? ET5, I think those are some of Mizco's. You were asking me about this earlier. Yeah, some of your textures, however you have them set up, that is too big. I do not support 16K effectively textures in IR. Even though some graphics cards do support it, or no, sorry, those are 8K, sorry. Or no, sorry, I do support 8K, I don't support 16K. 16K. So an 8K texture, just for reference, on the graphics card, this is 81. Uh, 99 is 82? 92? Yeah, 8192, 8192. So an 8K texture takes up half a gig of VRAM on its own, which is huge. So honestly, I'd recommend modelers stick to 4K if they can. 8K, like, if you have to. And 16K would be 16, 384. That's my entire graphics card. A 16K texture is literally my entire graphics card. It's 2 gigabytes. It's huge. It's not worth it. Like, just stop. Anyways, 8K textures are excusable. I will moan about them, but I do support them. But once you get up to a 16K texture, it's just not feasible to use. And it's not always that you have a 16K texture. It's your texture sheet, when enumerated, becomes that large. 32K? Like, that's just, like, that's not... Yeah, I know it does. Let's see. Yeah, I could just do that. So, okay, so... Yeah, so I could be using the exponentiation operators. Yeah. Anyways. Again, this is a good example of how it does not scale linearly. As you go to bigger textures, it scales as effectively as a power of 2. Almost loaded. Yeah, for that many packs, that's not that bad. This operator is a binary operator. The double star is to the power. Yeah. Again, I warned him. There's warning saying your text, like, however you have your textures presented, is not okay. It's not okay. So Immersive Railroading supports up to 8K textures. If your graphics card only supports 4K textures, then it actually will. It should detect that limit and stick to that. Yeah, polynomial space is not fun. I mean, at least it's better than... exponential. Oh, you're saying order of N2 for the images. Yes, that's right. I was just saying... I thought we were just talking about, like, bad asymptotic runtimes. Okay. Minecraft is pretty much loaded. Icons don't need to change, which is good. Yes. What's fun... Oh, this is a little bit of a tangent, but if you ever get a comp sci degree, you'll likely take a class called Automata Theory and some variant thereof, which I was a huge fan of. But there's also a follow-up to that called Complexity Theory, which is when you're equating, like, an algorithm that runs in logarithmic space, you can prove that it must... that it also... that it has to run within polynomial time. Like, it's weird stuff. It's cool, but it's very weird. What was I doing? Oh, yeah. $460. Let's try you out. Alright. Sweet. So I should be able to fly video settings. Go to 16. Yeah, like, at this distance, having the texture be a little bit garbled is perfectly fine. Like, it's not going to hurt anything. Also, if I go into F3, up here you can see my GPU memory. It's this area right here. So as I move closer, you'll see that bump up just a little bit. So we just hit one LOD level, and we hit another one, and there we go. And then it bumps down a little bit as it's freeing some of the LOD stuff, but yeah. Hey boss, I figured out why voxel trains were super pixelated. The LOD code was pretty badly broken, but we've since futzed with it, and it's working pretty well. So if I zoom all the way out here, that should eventually go down a little bit. Maybe. I don't know. I'm also streaming, which messes with this, but yeah, there we go. There it went down. It's more dramatic if I use, like, the turbo motive, for example. Like, some of these are... I think some of these are 4K textures. I can't remember. Though, actually, I do know that the A1 is 4K. Die. There we go. So that... Oh, yeah, so my GPU went up to 84% used. And as I fly away, we're down to 80%. And as I fly back toward it, and you can see... maybe you can't on the stream, but, like, it's like the wheels look a little bit crunchy, and, like, the windows look a little bit extra pixelated. But once you get close enough where it matters, it sharpens right back up, or it should at least. Why didn't you? What's going on? Texture code. desired distance is greater than That's right, maybe just the glass texture is different than I remember. That is odd. This one's actually not a huge texture. Some of these were. What was the one I was moaning about earlier? This one. ET5E. That one would be particularly bad. Misco! Yep. Yeah, that's a lot of memory. So you can see GPU's up to like 86, 87% compared to the others. Okay. And as we fly away, oh, that was a little bit more dramatic. You know what, I'm going to guess the problem is like the outside of the car must be like very simple compared to like the, oh yeah, so however he did the texture map, I apologize if I'm misusing pronouns here, however Misco did the texture, the interior has a lot more detail, or uses a lot more of the texture space than the outside. So when it scales it down, it just does that. So, and again, this is configurable, but like, this is a particularly broken model. I'm just using it to showcase like the amount of memory that you can save by doing this. Set it here, 75%. 87%, 85%. So, yeah, it's a lot. And this is one piece of rolling stock. If you're on a server with a bunch of consists in a yard, it's a lot more dramatic. Anywho, so that's the LOD stuff. So, I'm hoping modelers can take a look at their stuff and see where stuff isn't actually functioning as expected. And we can have a conversation about that. I may add an option to disable LOD like in the pack JSON, but I would rather not. Usually if the LOD is not working properly, it's pointing to an issue with the model, like that case in particular. Like I went from looking at yards on Winslow, like getting 3 frames per second up to like 30 to 40. So it can be a pretty dramatic change when you're in a big world. Anywho, that was all the LOD stuff. Let me commit these changes. Ah. Going. I'm actually going to place that ET. Yeah, so just like having these models loaded like this uses a ton of memory. Yeah. So if I switch this, just hypothetically speaking, graphics D to 32, I should be able to get further away before it does the dump. Yep. Yeah. that's something to think about, Tiger. Dynamic downscaling, because I do well, it's not guaranteed that I know how much GPU memory I have to play with. If I knew how much GPU memory I had to play with, like, then that would be a little bit easier, but given the APIs I have through Java to inspect that, I don't know how accurate that is. So I'd rather just have the default LOD stuff put in there. But yeah, again, this is probably the most extreme example I can come up with. But yeah, that just starts killing my graphics card. Yeah, Posen, I would recommend on your UV map making them like a 2x2 pixel area if you can manage that. Hey, Bowmaker. Oh, lots of stuff. There's lots of stuff. There's, yeah. I'm actually just going through user questions and stuff. Yeah, stock loading area. Yeah, it's easier to, yeah, it'd be better to scale based on VRAM usage. But again, I can't get this consistently for every graphics card, so I just avoid that for now. And just do a one-size-fits-all approach. But yeah, that's a blue screen. Alright, well, I've got a fair amount of stuff done. No, those blocks, that's just a capacitor from, so my local environment is a little bit weird, so this is an immersive engineering capacitor in my development environment. I don't know why that happens. It's just kind of broken. It's not immersive engineering's fault, it's just my own local setup is broken in weird ways. But yeah, any other questions? Anything else you want me to go over before I end the stream for today? That is a good question. So if you don't call binder.lod, it defaults to the standard LOD size. So if you don't specify an LOD, it just goes with the largest one available. Yeah, so if it's an LOD size is defaulted to this. Yeah. So it tries to get the largest. So it defaults to the largest possible. If that doesn't exist, then it defaults to the. It goes. The order of operations is if an LOD is specified, it uses the LOD. If the LOD is not specified, it defaults to whatever the largest LOD given was. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's effectively, yeah, the LOD is kind of like use smaller version at this point. Yeah. And if you have a really tiny texture that's like, let's say you have a 512 by 512 texture, and the code calls using the 1024 by 1024 LOD, it just uses the smaller version. It uses, yeah, it's reasonably smart. I just kind of fumbled at the end when I put this code together. Yeah. Oh yeah, we're gonna look at having it pitch and yawn roll in other interesting ways. It's just for fun. Kind of curious how this is going to look. Let's also bump this up. Well, I'll leave this standard for now. It's actually one change I do want to make, though. is that code? There we go. Get roll degrees. Sway impulse, that's what I'm looking for. Ah. I'm actually going to disable this because I want this to happen all the time. This might be a little bit too much, I'm just kind of curious. Yeah. So now it's kind of tipping the nose forward a little bit. It's hard to see in this piece of stock. Let me plop down a coach. Let's see how well this decides to couple on the curve. I know this is... Yep. Again... Let's go to one of the edges. Oh, that's the wrong axis. This needs to be on this axis. There we go. That honestly makes me a little bit sick. Yeah. I mean, it works. Makes me a little bit dizzy, to be honest. We can keep playing with that. Well, it's also... It's not even the cover... It's... Here, actually, let me, change that to 0. So, yeah, so if you change it to only pitch there, that does work. It's also not moving the player's position as well. Yeah, I'm going to switch this back to here. Yeah, I don't know if I'll include this in the release, but there's... Like, that right there doesn't make me... This gives me a little bit of, like, motion, but isn't, like, too crazy. I don't know. Yeah. You know, one thing that if I could figure out the sign of that impulse, maybe. That's hard to do, though. So it doesn't always sway in the direction you expect, but, yeah. Pull requests are welcome for this stuff. Yeah. Also, Dragon, if you're still here, I think some of the whistles in your pack are inverted where you have to like look upward to actuate them. You should be able to invert that. Okay. Die. There we go. Let's pull that up. That looks pretty good. The overall model is a little bit dark though, for Minecraft. Sorry, just a little bit of friendly feedback. But no, I do love playing with all of this stuff. Where's the throttle? Reverser. Oh, I'm hitting that valve. I need to add lean out the windows. It's a hard problem to solve in Minecraft, but solvable. I love this game. And I hopped out. There we go. Yeah. So right now those are useless widgets. At some point I do want to add injectors and add like better immersion levels. I also need to do a poll because right now I have this config immersion level disable independent throttle. Like it is kind of like, it's nice not breaking what people are used to, like having the simple like push this button to move forward, push this button to go backwards mode. But especially as like things get more complex, it's it would be nice to have the default be like having all the controls actually work like they do in real life by default. But I don't know, I'm gonna have to come up with a better way of like on first run like saying what are your preferences and like having some fairly coarse grained controls for how that's all gonna work. We'll get there eventually. Alright, well we're getting close to the 2-hour mark. Is there anything else folks wanted me to take a look at while we're here? might do this, like this, I might play with that a little bit offline, but yeah. There we go. Whew. Yeah, so there's a option on here for more particle effects. Um, that would be included in that. So I would do something similar to how, like, right now you specified like a rotation pin. Like, I can figure out effectively the normal of an object and use that to figure out which direction it should be firing the steam. I think. I still haven't fully fleshed that out, but like, you could say, here's the pipe, it comes out this end. Like, this is how it works. So, but that's a later date. That might be in 1.11, more likely 1.12, depending on how stuff goes. Yeah. So, this week's going to be a little bit interesting. I'm not sure how much I'm going to be able to get done with Immersive Railroading. I will try and do another dev stream next weekend, if I can swing it. I think the weekend after that, I'm likely gonna... Actually, no, sorry, this coming weekend. Yeah, this coming weekend, I'm gonna likely be away on the 8th, so I might be able to do one on the 7th, but I can't promise. So the next definite one is going to be on the 14th. So we'll figure that out. Yeah. Sanders eventually, more physics, lots of rewrites. There's actually some work going on right now behind the scenes for revamping some of the boiler mechanics. I'm not going to name names because it's the work is not yet ready for review, but there's some cool stuff coming. But yeah, I think I'm going to end the stream there. This was actually a ton of fun, and I actually had my development environment work for once on stream. But yeah, thanks everyone for coming. If you've got any more comments, questions, concerns, feel free to ping me in the Patreon chat or just in general on the IR Discord server. Again, a massive thanks to everyone who's supported this project via Patreon. It really makes it easier for me to justify spending more time on this project and putting off looking for a full-time job for at least a little while longer. So thanks again. You guys do make this possible, and the enthusiasm that the entire community shows is what really keeps me involved in the project. So anyways, that's going to be it for today. I will see you in the next one.